Well, first, of course, there were the songs, the dances, and then came the crackdown, isn't it? Yes, that's right. Donald Trump is back as his second stint as the president of America. And that started with a flurry of executive orders. A lot of them have been doing the rounds of internet. Many have been questioning, can all these measures, executive orders, which have been passed by him in one day alone, make America rich again? Drill, baby, drill, of course, is going to be one of the biggest takeaways from what he has said, because that effectively does sum up where exactly the Trump era is likely to be headed towards. In fact, during his first term, remember, as the president, he had signed 220 executive orders. And now, on day one itself, he's signed 30 executive orders. Of course, what is an executive order? It is essentially a way that you can manage to pass and get things done in America without a congressional nod for it. Essentially, executive orders are things, acts, for example, which can be imposed and can be carried out without getting the Congress's nod. They're pretty much in line with what he had promised. After all, many are saying that President Trump is now walking the talk. One can very safely say that he is now going to be bringing about big changes. What are these changes? Are they going to be implementable or not? Or will there be some limitations, legal limitations for that? Well, they might also be aimed at making America not just great, but rich again. But for the world, is it going to be mayhem in the offing? Well, that's going to be our focus over the next 30 minutes. But first, let's take you through a list of the orders which have been signed by President Trump. There you have it on your screens. One of the first few ones is withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, the Accord. That's not going to be the first time, however, he's done that. Also ending the birthright citizenship, because he's made it very clear. If your parents are illegals, in case you are born in America, doesn't automatically give you a American passport. So no citizenship is going to happen if they are children of illegal immigrants. Also, Musk-led DOJ has empowered to suggest cuts to the spending which is going to happen. Of course, that too is another one of the measures which is already facing a legal hurdle. Meanwhile, another one of them is, of course, exiting the World Health Organization, the WHO, in addition to the Paris Climate Agreement. Some of the many changes he's bringing about, renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Many have said it's not possible. He can't rename the Gulf of Mexico, but he's already said he will be doing that. Also, transgender protections have been rolled back. Now there are going to be only two recognizable genders, male or female. There is no such gender as transgender, which is going to be recognized by the government. Also, there's going to be a crackdown on illegal immigration, as we were already discussing. That's going to be one of the biggest promises that he had made pre-poll, that he's going to ensure that criminal aliens, as he has called them, are going to be sent back to where they came from. Also delaying the TikTok ban. He's bought them a lifeline as well. And of course, pardon for the 6th of Jan defendants, many of them who have been facing cases after the attack had happened on Capitol Hill. Also, the Biden-era regulations on gas and oil have been repealed, as we were discussing. Drill, baby, drill. Of course, that's going to be the way forward for Donald Trump. So let me go across to our panelists. Joining us today on the show, we have David Sofair, who is a Republican strategist. Also, Professor Madhav Nalapat is joining us, a geopolitical expert. David Sofair, I'm going to be coming to you. Many have said that Donald Trump has done just what he had promised. He's walked the talk. But the big test of this is going to be, can he actually pull it off? There are several limitations, legal limitations also, which are in the offing.
Well, if you look at the executive orders that he placed yesterday, it's over 200, which is historic in itself. And we look forward to executing a lot of these orders in America. It's been a long time. America now has to enter the golden age and heal. And one of his main missions is to cut out the bureaucracy and these other things to do with climate and making America energy independent again. And that is really a preface to get global and worldwide inflation way down. So we look forward to achieving that. So yes, I think that at least it's safe to say that 2/3 of the executive orders will stick. I think in regards to birthright citizenship, there could be some hurdles there in the courts. But there is a big difference between legal American immigration and illegal immigration and the right to citizenship and pathway to citizenship, etc., under Donald Trump's terms.
Absolutely. Trump, in fact, made it very categorically clear that he's not against legal immigration, it is only against illegal immigration. But Professor Madhav Nalapat, what does it mean for the world? Because geopolitical experts have gone into a tizzy over this flurry of executive orders. The markets haven't been responding too kindly to all of it. What do we expect in the coming days? Professor Madhav, yes, go ahead.
Let's not look at the markets, quite frankly. The fact of the matter is that markets can be manipulated to swing here and there. And once Trump's rules on transparency come into effect, well, I think it's going to be much more difficult for speculators to make money out of rigged markets. You suddenly artificially boost the price of a stock up or down, and then you either buy when it's down and sell when it's up, and then it starts falling down again because it's artificially high or it's artificially low. So you start buying it low, and then it starts rising again, and you make a ton of money. Now, this kind of stuff is not going to work under Trump's transparency. And may I say one more very important point? You look at Rubio, you look at Hegseth, look at Waltz, look at Gabbard, there are other picks as well. Look at his security picks. You check what they say about China. Check what they say about India. And only the point is very clear. You'll have to walk the talk. Both countries will have to walk the talk. For example, the Quad is a security construct.
Absolutely.
Some of us have been saying that from the very beginning. You can't dance around that and say, no, no, actually we're not security, or we're half security, or we're no security. You've got to be upfront the way Trump is. So I'd like to say very clearly, for example, what's wrong with renaming it the American Sea? The Mexicans can continue to call it whatever they like. I've been suggesting for a long time that we should rename the so-called South China Sea the ASEAN Sea. And I hope that this is going to catch the attention of the Trump people.
Interesting parallel.
South China Sea.
Interesting parallel. David, so far you wanted to come in because many have said Trump cannot take the decision about renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. There are others who are saying why not.
Well, I'm to that camp as well. I'm definitely not a Mexican apologist. I mean, they've been ripping off America for years and years, and they have, very weak border as well. They've destroyed us in trade as well. So why not call it, the Gulf of America? There could be a legal hurdle there with, some international waters and all of that. But, at the same time, I think I'm very happy that it's about the time to stand up against Mexico. And on the topic of inflation and all that and oil, it's time to stand clear against the Chinese. They're not our friends. And it's time to stand clear against the Panamanians, what they're doing, the huge import taxes they put on American ships. It's unbelievable, and it's sparking worldwide inflation as well. So the idea that stock prices can be manipulated through policy is, I think it is speculative at best, and it's frankly not true in respect to you, Professor Nampushlit. If anything,
but David, so here's the problem.
Right,
how can America take back the Panama Canal? Many are wondering. Can you take it back? How can you take it back?
Well, it's okay. So when you say take back is a strong word, but what I think that when Trump says things, it can be a negotiation strategy as well. So and let's take back the rules of the Panama Canal, which America built, America developed, and for a very long time it was an American territory as well.
Yes,
now it's being Chinese run, right? And it's to detriment to everybody else. Okay, high energy costs, these huge taxes and tariffs for every boat to put it on. A dry bulk container ship now is up to a $500,000 tariff. Now, what's on those container ships is basic goods that feed into the American economy, right? Now, that is built onto the American consumer. So, 38,000 men and women died in the construction of that canal that was bought and paid for by America as well. So if that means going in there and playing hardball and renegotiating these terrible and disastrous trading terms, so be it. I think it's a good thing, not only for America, but for worldwide trade.
In fact, since we are talking about tariffs, Professor Madhav Nalapad, already one of the things that he has imposed, he's promised to levy 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Of course, there are many people in India who are saying that's going to be great. He hasn't specified China in the latest one, but that's expected to be more tariffs on China is expected to come along as well. However, here's the problem. There are those who are saying that Trump in the past has also said India's topped their tariff game. They need to bring down the tariffs which are going to be there on US-made products when it comes to India as well. What really is going to be there for India in this tariff war?
Look, I'd like to say that it's perfectly possible, and it has happened, including on Wall Street, that stocks get manipulated and prices get rigged and people make huge profits out of it. It's a fact of life all over the world. I quite agree with David when he talks about Panama, for example. How can you have one of the most important choke points, Panama, Suez, and these are the choke points, what we call the South China Sea, the waters just off Indonesia. These are all choke points. It's very important to ensure that choke points are controlled by the democracies. And I think that is what President Trump is meaning. And secondly, I'd like to say what he's talking about tariffs is why Mexico, why Canada? Because a lot of their stuff is actually Chinese components stamped and made in Canada or stamped and made in Mexico. They're not really made in Mexico. They're not made in Canada. And I think that's an important, a factor to understand. What it says is make it in Canada, make it in Mexico, or make it in friendly countries, but you can't make it in a country that's hostile to us and then enjoy tariffs. What happens is these markets are being flooded by Chinese goods, that are coming through third countries. So basically 60, 70, 80, 90% are Chinese components, and they get the benefit of the low tariffs.
Absolutely. David, you wanted to come in on tariffs?
Yes, please. I mean, so in regards to China trade as well, we are so heavily codependent and reliant on, on Chinese trade and Chinese supply chain. So it would be very difficult to tariff them in such a way without creating more robust inflation, which would be a detriment as well. Now, in regards to Canadian tariffs as well, that is something that we have looked into for a long time.
But diplomatically, can you pull it off, David?
Could we pull off Chinese tariffs?
No, on Canada. Mexico, yes. China, yes. I'm talking about Canada, a friendly nation.
It's not. It has nothing to do with friends or not. It has to do with the numbers are not friendly. So once you have these massive trade deficits, it's unbelievable. I mean, we are a sovereign nation. We are a democratic nation, and Trump is the president of peace, but peace by strength, and that includes economic strength as well. So when you look at these tariffs and you look at these negotiation tactics that we have currently and effectively using in renegotiating things like NAFTA, the North American trade, and getting back American jobs and bringing down inflation. It's a multi-pronged avenue. So whilst we cannot cut off China, we can definitely renegotiate things by using hard and draconian numbers in our strategy, and I think that's what Trump 2.0, if you will, is doing.
Absolutely. In fact, there are several parallels which are there in the way the Indian government is functioning and Trump's vision as well. But one big point of divergence is when it comes to climate change. India is a big champion for climate, and it has been participating actively at the Paris Climate Accord as well. However, Trump has decided to pull out of it. He's also
Sure, and I think
lived by the mantra of drill, baby, drill.
Right, absolutely, and I think that it is very convenient for the French. I mean, here you have a country that has no natural gas at all whatsoever, and they don't have any petrol at all. For them to be the champions for, for climate change, it's unbelievable. And when you boil it down, what you really have at the, Paris Climate Change Accord, it's not really that much. At the end of the day, without our friends, the Chinese, coming up to the plate and doing and playing suit, as they are a country of growth and they are a huge manufacturing company, right? In America, when you say drill, baby, drill, the regulation there is still immense, whether that's fracking or a pipeline, permitting. I mean, the EPA is huge. So in China, they don't have any of that. I mean, they're dumping all of their toxic waste, hazardous waste into the sea. Okay. And then you have the French still trading openly and getting over 37% of their petrol through the Russians, who are also huge polluters as well. So I think we should just completely dissolve the idea of the Paris Climate Change Accord. Definitely. I mean, I think it's bureaucracy at its worst, and I think it's the...
Well, there's a lot to discuss that. We could have another half-an-hour show just on the Paris Accord, isn't it? And how strategically it impacts every different nation. Unfortunately, gentlemen, I'm out of time. Thank you so much, David Sofair, for joining us here on the show. Professor Madhav Nalapat, pleasure as always to have you here. Without a short break, don't go anywhere.